I was Ethan's secret lover for 3 years. In my last life, pregnant and full of joy, I naively believed I would be rewarded with his proposal. But what arrived instead was the news that his first love, Vivian, had returned to the country, and a notice that I was being committed to a psychiatric hospital. In the end, I was tortured to death, my body and spirit both destroyed. The day I burned to death, Ethan was having a grand confession ceremony 10,000 meters up in the air with his first love, Vivian. Reborn into a second life, I returned to the day I had just found out I was pregnant. Before I could react, a childish voice exploded in my head, "Mommy. Run. That jerk is going to the airport to pick up that bad woman any minute. He'll freeze all your cards and lock you up," sniffling, "I don't want to die with Mommy." I froze all over. The man beside me had just finished an exhilarating bout of exercise, his voice lazy as he asked, "Serena, what are you thinking about?" In my last life, at this very moment I had shyly asked him when he would marry me. But now, what am I thinking? I'm thinking about how to stab you twice. You bastard. Give me back Mommy's life. Don't be afraid, Mommy, I already cracked the password to his hidden black card. It's under the third vase in the second row of his study. Let's grab the money and run, find a handsome young man to be my dad. I listened to the passionate tirade in my head and silently suppressed the hatred in my chest. I looped my arm around Ethan's neck and breathed into his ear like a whispering breeze. "Darling, I was thinking about that seaside villa you said you'd give me. When are you going to transfer it to me?" Ethan's body visibly stiffened, and for the first time he looked at me with a probing gaze. "Yes, yes, yes. Take his money. Drain him. Starve him. Leave him hugging that first love while he lives on air. My unlucky son really is cut out for big things." "Oh?" Ethan narrowed his eyes, the fingers pinching my chin applying a little pressure. "Since when did my Serena care only about these outward things? Here it comes. The scumbag's PUA is here. Mommy, don't believe him. He just wants you to feel guilty so you'll willingly be his free maid and plaything. Outward things? Who cares if you have no money, you're worth nothing then." I silently gave my son a thumbs up for getting so worked up he was about to lose his voice. On the outside I forced a wronged expression, my eyes instantly filling with tears. "Ethan, I've followed you for 3 years. Besides your money, what else could I want from you? Do you mean to say I wanted you to love me?" I looked at him with tears welling up. That sentence hit Ethan's sore spot. His expression darkened, and the warmth that had been in his eyes vanished completely. "Serena, remember your place." He coldly shrugged my hand off, got out of bed, and without a hint of embarrassment put his clothes on in front of me. That perfect body, I had been obsessed with it for an entire previous life. Now, looking at it again, it felt unbearably ironic. "Mummy, look at him, what a dog. Who does he think he is? If it weren't for you, he'd still be a virgin." "Me, thanks, but I didn't need that useless information." Ethan was tidily dressed, restored to that haughty, indifferent demeanor. He pulled a card from his wallet and tossed it onto the bed. "I've had people take care of the Seaview Villa, the transfer will be done by tomorrow. There's 5 million on this card, the password is your birthday. Don't spend it all at once." It was the same in the past life. Whenever he upset me, he'd try to placate me with money. And I would always, half reluctantly, half willing, stupidly forgive him, thinking it was his peculiar way of showing affection. Looking back now, it's really laughable. He had simply treated me like a pet that could be placated with money. "Thank you, darling." I smiled sweetly, picked up the card, and kissed it in front of him. Ethan's brow furrowed deeper, as if he was uncomfortable with this greedy side of me. "Don't kiss the card. Go kiss the vase." "Black card. The black card is under the vase." I held back my laugh, slowly climbed out of bed, walked over to him and stood on tiptoe, hooked my arms around his neck, and kissed him before he had time to react. Ethan's body stiffened for a moment. But soon he took the upper hand, deepening the kiss. Just as he was getting passionate, I suddenly pushed him away. Ethan, I just remembered, the blue and white porcelain vase in your study looks a bit tilted. I'll go straighten it. With that, I turned and ran. Mommy, well done. Starve that jerk out. Let him cling to his first love and nibble on air. I dashed into the study, my heart pounding. Second row. Third one. The one that looks most expensive but is actually a fake. I stood on the chair and took down the blue and white porcelain vase, half a person's height. Sure enough, there was a thin card sleeve stuck to the bottom. I slid the black card out, tucked it into my underwear, and then put the vase back in its place. Only after doing all that did I exhale. Just as I stepped out of the study, I ran into Ethan. He was leaning against the doorframe, his gaze heavy as he looked at me, unreadable. Set it up right? Much easier on the eyes now. I replied without changing my expression. He said nothing more and turned into the bathroom. Hearing the water run inside, I immediately went back to the bedroom and locked the door. Mommy, quick, check the password. I uploaded it into your head. A complex string of characters and numbers flooded into my mind. I immediately opened my phone banking app and entered the black card number and the decoded password. When I saw that long, innumerable string of zeros, my hand still couldn't help trembling. Mom, don't shake. Quick, transfer. Move it into our own accounts. Don't leave him a single cent. I took a deep breath and began to operate. So I wouldn't be discovered immediately, I didn't transfer it all at once. Instead, using the dozens of anonymous overseas accounts I'd prepared long ago, I funneled the money out in batches, breaking it into smaller sums. It was delicate work, I was sweating profusely from the effort. Serena, open up. Ethan's voice suddenly sounded outside the door. I startled and my hand trembled, almost pressing the wrong button. Coming. I'm changing. I hurriedly transferred the last sum, deleted all records, and then hid the phone. I opened the door. Ethan had already changed into a robe, his hair still dripping. I'll have the nanny come tomorrow to take care of you. I have to go on a business trip for a few days. My heart lurched. A business trip? In my past life he used the same excuse to pick Vivian up at the airport. Lying dog of a man. He's going away for several days. Perfect timing for us to run. All right, then be careful. I nodded obediently, already plotting my escape. Ethan seemed pleased with my compliance. He reached out and pulled me into his arms. What kind of present do you want? His voice was hoarsely laced with desire, his hands wandering restlessly over me. I clenched back my nausea and smiled. I want the stars in the sky, will you pick them for me? Ethan froze, his expression complex as he looked at me. Serena, you're different today. My heart dropped. Mama, don't be afraid. Go for him. Anyway, we're about to run away. I mustered my courage and, copying what he had just done, pinched his chin. What? Don't like it? Or do you prefer that Serena who obeys you, who never says no to you? Ethan, I get bored of things too. Ethan was so stunned by my words that he couldn't speak for a long time. In the end, he climbed off me with a sullen face and, without a word, lay down on the other side of the bed. There was no talk all night. When I woke the next morning, he was already gone. A note lay on the bedside table in his handwriting, "Be good at home, wait for me to come back." I snorted and tore the note to pieces. Mama. He's boarded the plane. He'll arrive in 4 hours. Let's run. I sprang out of bed at once. The housekeeper for the villa had already arrived and was preparing breakfast in the kitchen. She was the person Ethan had specifically hired to take care of me after we got together. In my last life, they sent me to a psychiatric hospital. She was the only person who came to see me. She quietly told me that Ethan publicly claimed I had lost my mind, while Vivian, in the role of mistress, had moved into the villa. Auntie, isn't your daughter about to take the college entrance exam? I'll give you a few days off so you can go home and spend time with her. I made up an excuse and slipped her a bank card with 100,000 yuan on it. The aunt couldn't refuse and had to thank me profusely before leaving. The vast villa was left with only me inside. I drew all the curtains and began to pack like mad. Jewelry, designer bags, anything valuable, I took every single thing. Mama. That bad woman messaged you. I took out my phone and sure enough saw a message from Vivian. Serena, long time no see. Ethan is, with me right now. He says he misses me very much. Attached was a photo. In it, Ethan sat in a first-class seat with his eyes closed, and Vivian's head was nestled affectionately on his shoulder. The same provocation as in the previous life. Back then, the instant I saw the photo I went insane. I called Ethan frantically and confronted him. But he replied impatiently, Serena, can you stop making a fuss? Then she hung up and cancelled all my cards. I was completely shut down, turned into a canary in a cage. This time, I looked at that glaring photo and only smiled faintly. Then I leisurely typed back, oh, tell him then, do you want that pair of underwear he left on the bed or not? If you don't want them, I'll throw them away. They're actually kind of cute, there's a hole in the front and crystals on the back, TSK, very flashy. After sending it, I immediately blocked and deleted Vivian. Ha 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 ha. Mommy is awesome. That White Lotus is going to be so mad. I packed up in high spirits. An hour later, several movers arrived and loaded all the dozens of boxes I had packed onto the truck. I stood in the empty villa and took one last look at the prison that had held me for 3 years. Goodbye, Ethan. No, never again. I got into the car I had arranged and headed straight for the airport. But barely had the car left the villa grounds when my phone started ringing like crazy. The name flashing on the screen was Ethan's. Mom, don't answer. He must have found the money's gone. He's coming back. My heart tightened. Without hesitation I hung up and switched the phone off. Driver, faster. Go faster. Where do you think you're going, Serena? A cold voice sounded in my ear. My whole body froze as I slowly lifted my head. Outside the car window, Ethan leaned against a black Bentley, watching me with an expressionless face. Behind him stood several bodyguards in black, surrounding our car. The driver went pale with fright and, trembling, killed the engine. This is bad. Mommy. The scumbag came back early. Wasn't he supposed to be on the plane? My mind went blank too. How could this be? How could he be here? The car door was opened from the outside by a bodyguard. Ethan bent down, and that exquisitely handsome face of his filled me with a fear I had never known before. Get out. His voice had not a shred of warmth. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to stay calm. Don't panic, Serena, you're not the same person who could be manipulated in your past life. I pushed the car door open, stood in front of him, and even forced a smile. Ethan, didn't you go on a business trip? How come you're back? If I don't come back, how would I know my Serena was planning to run off with the money? He reached into his pocket and pulled something out, waving it in front of my face. It was my phone. My pupils constricted. When did he take it? You left your phone on the bed. He curled his lips, but the smile never reached his eyes. When I turned it on, I saw the bank alerts. 500 million in total. Serena, you sure have an appetite. So that's why. After I pushed him away last night, he said nothing, but while I slept he secretly swapped my phone. I was using his spare phone. And he, holding my phone, had seen everything I'd done. A perfect case of the mantis stalking the cicada, only to be watched by the oriole. Ethan, I had underestimated you. So you were testing me from the start? I asked coldly. It was you who acted strange first. He squeezed my chin with a force that felt as if he might crush the bone. Speak. Why would you do this? Not enough money? Or, do you have someone else? That last sentence was laced with danger. I looked at his face, so close I could almost touch it, and the hatred and fear in my chest twisted together until they threatened to devour me. I couldn't get away. I had lost. No. I haven't lost yet. I still have one biggest chip left. I suddenly laughed, laughing until tears streamed down. I raised a hand, wiped the corner of my eye, then took something out of my bag and slapped it against his chest. Ethan, didn't you want to know why? Because I'm pregnant. I could clearly see the indifference and mockery on his face crack in an instant. In those always unruffled eyes, for the first time there was shock and helplessness. I straightened my back, met his incredulous gaze, and said, "This child is mine. It has nothing to do with you. Now, shall we talk about child support and my emotional damages, Mr. Ethan?" The air seemed to freeze. Ethan stared at the prenatal test report in my hand. "Mommy's awesome. Scared that jerk to death. Let him think you're going to have his baby? Dream on. This is my mommy, all mine." I watched Ethan's expression, as if struck by lightning, and to my surprise much of the fear inside me drained away, replaced by a thrill of revenge. "What did you say?" He finally found his voice, but it was hoarse and rough. "I said I'm pregnant, but the child isn't yours." I repeated, my smile growing even brighter. "So I'm taking some money from you to raise my and someone else's child, not unreasonable, right? Serena." He practically ground the name out through his teeth, the vein at his temple bulged as if he might tear me apart the next second. "Say that again," I said. I hadn't finished when he suddenly clamped my wrist and roughly dragged me toward his car. "Let go of me. Ethan, you madman." I struggled desperately, but my strength was insignificant compared to his. He shoved me into the car, climbed in after me, and then coldly ordered the driver, "Go back to the villa." The car started. He held me captive in his arms, and I couldn't move. "Whose child is it?" He looked down at me, his gaze dark and terrifying. "Guess," I said provocatively, staring back at him. "Is he the college student who brings flowers every day? Or that director who hit on you at the party last time?" "Ethan, mind your own business. You're just my sugar daddy, nothing more. We're long done." "Done?" He sneered, his hand on my waist tightening. "Serena, have you forgotten that your contract is still in my possession? As long as I don't let go, don't even think about leaving me for the rest of your life." My heart sank. Right, I had forgotten. Back then, for the money, I signed a contract that was almost like selling myself. The term of the contract was 10 years. And only 3 have passed. "Mama, don't be afraid. I've already taken care of the contract for you." I hacked into that jerk's company's legal system and added a clause: if the woman becomes pregnant, the contract is automatically terminated and the man must pay the woman 1 billion yuan. I'm such a genius, baby. I almost couldn't help laughing out loud. My son really is my dear little sweetheart. Really? I put away the panic on my face and became brazen again. "Mr. Ethan, I suggest you check the electronic copy of our contract right now. There might be a surprise." Ethan knit his brows tightly, clearly not understanding what I meant. But he still took out his phone and called his assistant. "Send the contract between me and Serena to my email immediately." After hanging up, he stared at me while waiting for the message. Soon his phone vibrated. He opened the email. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, his expression shifted from sullen to stunned to livid. That look was even more striking than when he'd seen the pregnancy test earlier. "Serena, what on earth did you do?" "I didn't do anything." I blinked innocently. "It's written in black and white, Mr. Ethan, you'll have to own up to it." Ethan clenched the phone so hard the veins on the back of his hand stood out one by one, as if he might crush the device. The pressure inside the car was suffocating. He's panicking. Ha ha ha. "Pay up, you dog of a man. Stop the car." Ethan suddenly roared. The driver, terrified, slammed on the brakes, the vehicle screeched along the roadside. "Get out," he said to the driver. The driver, as if granted a pardon, scrambled and rolled away. Only the two of us remained in the car. Ethan turned his head, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me. "I'll ask you one last time, whose child is it?" There was a tremor in his voice. Seeing him like that, a bold thought suddenly sprang into my mind. He wouldn't think the child was his, would he? True, I had only just said the child wasn't his and offered no proof. And he and I, just last night. Does it matter whose it is? I said, deliberately ambiguous. Anyway, according to the contract, not only do you have to let me go now, you owe me $1 billion. I can give you money. He took a deep breath, as if making some grave decision. But the child must be aborted. My heart plummeted to the bottom of a ravine in an instant. What? He's going to kill me. I'm going to tear him up. I'm going to tear this scumbag apart. My son's voice in my head was so sharp it felt like it would pierce my eardrums. Overwhelming hatred and fury swept through me in a flash. In the last life, he sent me to a psychiatric hospital and left me to die. In this life, he actually wants to kill my child too. Ethan, how dare you? Slap. I summoned every ounce of strength and slapped him hard across the face. The sharp sound echoed in the cramped space. Ethan's head snapped aside, and a clear 5-fingered mark quickly appeared on his handsome face. He seemed stunned by the blow and didn't react for a long moment. Ethan, you're a complete and utter beast. I shouted, my eyes red as I pointed at him. Even a tiger won't eat its cub. You tried to kill your own child. What did you say? He spun around suddenly, seizing my wrist, his eyes full of shock. You mean, this is my child? Of course not. I shook his hand off, tears betraying me and spilling down. No matter how useless I, Serena, am, I would never carry your child and run around with another man. After saying that, I refused to look at him and yanked the car door open, intending to get out. But he beat me to it and locked the door. Serena, listen to me. For the first time his voice sounded flustered. I didn't mean that. I just thought. You thought I'm some kind of loose woman, didn't you? I cut him off with a cold laugh. Ethan, in your heart I'm really that despicable, aren't I? He opened his mouth, but not a single word came out. What could he possibly say? In his mind, wasn't I just a toy that could be bought with money, summoned at will and discarded just as easily? Suddenly I felt so tired, utterly exhausted. What was there left to say with someone like that? $1 billion, not a cent less. By tomorrow morning I want to see the money in my account. And let me go. I leaned back against the chair, closed my eyes, and ignored him. The car started again, but this time it headed toward the Central City Hospital. I'll take you to get checked. Ethan's voice sounded much calmer, but still carried an imperious edge that brooked no objections. I didn't resist. Fine, I'll go. After all, the child was undeniably his. Perfect opportunity, let the hospital report slap him in the face one more time. At the hospital, Ethan pulled some strings and arranged the fastest, most comprehensive tests for me. While we waited for the results, we sat in the VIP lounge, mostly silent. His phone rang several times, each time he simply hung up. No need to guess, Vivian was calling. The first love he'd abandoned at the airport was probably furious by now. Thinking of that, my mood lightened considerably. Mommy, that terrible woman is losing it. She's been ranting on posts, hinting that you're the other woman, even saying that a scumbag dumped her for you. It's hilarious, a lot of those scumbags' business rivals have joined in, and now it's trending. I raised an eyebrow and took out my phone. Sure enough, headlines like Scum Corporation CEO's love life, Ethan's first love, and mysterious mistress had gone viral. Vivian posted a photo of herself standing alone at the airport. Her caption read, "What does it feel like to wait for a ship that will never return?" In the comments section, her fans and paid trolls had already slammed the other woman across hundreds of threads. Many people dug up photos of me with Ethan from before and launched all kinds of personal attacks. Shameless gold digger. Looks like a fox spirit, clearly not a good person. Please, Goddess Vivian, open your eyes and don't wait for this kind of scum anymore. I looked at those comments with no ripple inside me. In my previous life, I was cyberbullied the same way. Back then I had no way to explain myself and could only hide in the villa and cry. And now? I logged into that seldom-used alt account of mine and edited a post. I didn't attach any photos, only wrote one sentence: pregnant, do not disturb. Preparing to run with the baby, startup capital 1 billion. Thanks to Mr. Ethan for sponsorship. After posting, I turned my phone off. You can imagine the kind of storm that post would stir up. Ethan, weren't you into playing games? Then I'll play a little bigger with you. What are you doing? Ethan asked, having somehow drifted to my side. I angled the phone screen toward him and gave him a sweet smile. Nothing much, just making it official. Ethan glanced at my post and his face went instantly as dark as the bottom of a pot. Serena. Are you out of your mind? I'm not crazy. I put away my smile and looked at him coldly. You forced me, Ethan. Didn't you try to kill my child? I'm going to make the whole world know he exists. I want to see, I continued, which of you would dare move against the Shin family's eldest grandson. Are you the one who dares, or is it your high and mighty father? The Shin family's internal relations were extremely complicated. Ethan was his father's only son and had been groomed as the heir since childhood. Victor, on the other hand, had been longing for a grandson until his eyes nearly turned green. In my last life, I was just too naive, thinking that if I behaved, I could win Ethan's love. I never considered using the child in my womb to fight for anything. But now I'm different. I want money, I want freedom, and I want everyone who ever bullied me to pay. Serena, what exactly do you want? For the first time, fatigue and resignation entered Ethan's voice. I already told you. I looked at him. 1 billion. Let me go. From now on, bridges are bridges and roads are roads, we're done. Impossible. He refused without a second thought. I can give you the money, but you and the child must stay with me. On what grounds? I laughed. Because you're my son's father? Ethan, are you worthy? A man who tried to kill his own child, what right does he have to be his father? His face went ashen in an instant. He opened his mouth, as if to explain something, but in the end he said nothing. At that moment, the doctor walked in with the report. Mr. Ethan, congratulations, Serena is indeed pregnant. She's 7 weeks along and the fetus is very healthy. The doctor handed the report to Ethan. Ethan stared at the ultrasound, his expression extremely complicated. Bah. Hypocrite. He's only interested because my son is useful to him. I watched his performance with cold eyes. Mr. Ethan, shall we discuss compensation now? I didn't want to drag this out any longer. Ethan looked up and glanced at me. Fine. He actually agreed. 1 billion, it will be transferred to your account by tomorrow morning. But I have one condition. What condition? Before the child is born, you must live where I arrange. He paused, then added, I won't restrict your freedom, you can do whatever you want. I just want to make sure you and the baby are safe. Mommy, don't trust him. He's just trying to keep you under control. Then he'll find an opportunity to lock us up. But the place he's suggesting, it actually sounds kind of interesting. Their security system is ridiculously strong, but for me it's a piece of cake. And the scenery is amazing, perfect for resting and keeping the baby safe. We can pretend to agree with him, wait until we get the money, then hack his system and slip away without anyone noticing. My son's plan sounded pretty good. Okay. I nodded. But you must promise me one thing, do not let that woman Vivian appear in front of me. All right. He agreed quickly. After leaving the hospital, Ethan didn't take me back to that villa but went to another property of his halfway up the mountain, Yunding Manor. The security here, just as my son had said, was like a net cast across the sky and earth. From the gate to the main house I counted at least dozens of cameras and infrared sensors along the way. From now on, you'll live here. Ethan led me into the master bedroom. The room was as large as a suite, decorated in a style I liked. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows lay the city's nightscape. It's very safe here, no one will come to bother you. As he said this, his eyes never left me, as if he were studying my reaction. I pretended to look pleased and nodded. Not bad. After settling me, Ethan took a call and hurried off. Mommy, he's gone to deal with things online. That wicked woman is still running around causing trouble. I snorted coldly. Vivian's good days are over. Ethan moved quickly. In less than half an hour, every trending post about us had vanished without a trace. Vivian's snide little post was deleted too. In its place, the official Weibo of the Shin Group issued a statement. In the statement, the Shin Group used strong language to warn all media outlets and individuals spreading rumors and troublemaking, and declared that it would pursue legal responsibility. Most crucially, at the end of the statement there was a bland line, regarding Mr. Ethan's private life, please do not overinterpret. Mr. Ethan and Miss Vivian are merely ordinary friends. Ordinary friends. Like a resounding slap, it was hurled hard across Vivian's face. One can imagine how magnificent her expression must be at this moment. Ha ha ha. Serves her right. That wicked woman must be smashing things at home right now. She even tried to buy online trolls to push the trending topic back up, but Ethan's company's PR team ground her down to the dirt. I'm dying laughing. I scrolled through my phone in high spirits, watching the tide of public opinion shift. Many of those who had been insulting me before were now turning around, speculating that I must be some heiress to earn Ethan's fierce protection. Just then, an unfamiliar number called. I answered, and Vivian's sharp, angry voice came through. Serena. You bitch. What the hell did you do? Miss Vivian, watch your language. I leisurely poured myself a glass of water. I'm currently the Shin family's prospective meritorious woman, and the one in my belly is the Shin family's eldest grandson. Keep insulting me and be careful Ethan rips your mouth off. You. Vivian was so angry she couldn't speak. Serena, don't get cocky. The one Ethan loves is me. He's protecting you now only because of that piece of flesh in your belly. Wait until the baby is born, let's see if he even glances at you again. Is that so? I chuckled softly. Then we'll just wait and see. But let me give you a word of warning, Miss Vivian. It's best to leave yourself a way out. Otherwise, falling from the clouds is no pleasant feeling. Having said that, I hung up. Talking any more with an idiot like that would be a waste of time. The next morning my phone pinged with the bank transfer alert. 1 billion, every cent. Mama. The money's in. We can get ready to run. My son was even more excited than I was. Not yet. I soothed him. Running now is too risky. Ethan has certainly planted people here to watch it around the clock. We have to wait for the best moment. Over the next few days, I lived the salted fish life I'd always dreamed of. I slept until I woke naturally, had a top chef prepare nutritious meals for me, and a professional team tended to my daily needs. Ethan came back to see me almost every day, but he never stayed long, and most of the time we sat in silence. He seemed to want to repair what was between us, but didn't know where to begin. He would awkwardly peel apples for me, buy a stack of parenting books, and then spend whole nights reading in the study. The way he looked at me grew increasingly complicated. Guilt, remorse, and a kind of devotion I couldn't decipher. If this were my previous life, I might have been moved. But now, I only found it laughable. Where was he when it mattered? That day, I was basking in the garden when an unexpected person appeared before me. It was Ethan's father, Victor. Victor was a middle-aged man who carried an imposing air. His features bore a certain resemblance to Ethan's. The moment he arrived, the bodyguards and servants around him bowed their heads respectfully. You're Serena? He came up to me, looking down as if from a height, appraising me with eyes full of scrutiny and disdain. Yes. I answered calmly. Name your price. How much will it take for you to terminate the pregnancy and leave my son? He got straight to the point, his tone dripping with the arrogance of someone used to having power. I smiled. Mr. Victor, I think you've got something backwards. It's not me asking for money, your son is begging me to keep the baby. Victor's face darkened. Don't refuse a toast and then drink the penalty cup. The Shin family will never acknowledge a bastard of unknown parentage. Whether he's a bastard or not, aren't you the one who should know? I laid a hand on my belly. Besides, even if you don't acknowledge him, it doesn't matter. Your son has already given me 1 billion in child support, enough to raise the child. What? Victor stared at me in shock. That ungrateful son actually gave you 1 billion? Yes. I nodded. So, Mr. Victor, if your visit today was just to force me into an abortion, I'm afraid you came for nothing. If you have the time, you'd be better off going back and asking your son who really can't live without whom. You. Victor's face went ashen with fury, his fingers shaking as he pointed at my hand. Ethan hurried back. Seeing Victor, his expression changed as well. Dad, what are you doing here? If I hadn't come, this family would have been turned upside down by that vixen. Victor shouted at me. Look at what you've done. You gave her 1 billion yuan for the sake of a woman. Ethan ignored his roaring and strode to my side, anxiously checking me. Did he do anything to you? I shook my head. Only when he saw I was all right did he breathe a sigh of relief, then turned to face Victor. Dad, this is my business. Please don't interfere. His tone was harder than I had ever heard. Your business? Victor scoffed. You broke off an engagement with Vivian for an ill-reputed woman like her, caused a citywide scandal, and now you tell me this is your business? Broken off an engagement? I froze. Ethan and Vivian, engaged? I had no idea about that in my last life. Mommy, that scumbag has been hiding plenty from you. He and that wicked woman were in a business alliance marriage, both families had agreed to it ages ago. But he broke off the engagement for you, and the Yi family is furious, they've even pulled several collaborations with the Shin group. I looked at Ethan, my heart a tangle of emotions. For me? No, he was thinking of the child in my womb. Of the heir to the Shin family. My relationship with Vivian is purely business. There has never been any affection, Ethan said coldly. Now that Serena is carrying my child, I must take responsibility. Responsible? How will you be responsible? Marry her? Victor snorted disdainfully. A woman who has nothing but a pretty face, how could she be worthy of entering our Shin household? Whether she's worthy is not for you to decide, Ethan said with finality. Father, I'm putting this down now. In this life, the only woman who could be my wife is Serena. He finished speaking, took my hand, and, under Victor's stunned gaze, slipped a ring onto my ring finger. Serena, marry me. I stared at the massive diamond on my hand, suddenly dazed. A proposal? What I had begged for in my past life, in this life I had obtained so easily. No way. Mommy. You absolutely can't marry him. If you marry him, how are we supposed to run away? I don't want that jerk to be my dad. My son's shriek snapped me back to reality. Of course, I couldn't marry him. I took the ring off and shoved it back into his hand. Ethan, don't waste your breath. I'm not going to marry you. Ethan's body went rigid, the light in his eyes instantly dimming. Why? No reason, I just don't want to. I looked at him, and then at Victor behind him, who stood there dumbfounded, and suddenly everything felt like a farce. Ethan, Uncle Victor, could you two stop dragging me into your family soap opera? I just want to quietly give birth to my son, take the money, and walk away. I have no interest at all in the Shin family's grand vendettas. After speaking, I turned and walked away, no longer paying them any mind. Back in my room, I immediately began contacting the escape experts I had already lined up. They were a team very famous on the dark web, specializing in helping people vanish. Mommy, I've already sent them the security schematics for Cloud Summit Resort, and I left a few backdoors while I was at it. We'll move in 3 days. I'll create a huge diversion to cover our escape. Okay. The plan was finally about to begin. In those 3 days, Ethan didn't pressure me again. He only came by every day, quietly keeping me company, telling me stories from his childhood, about the hardships of starting his business. He tried to get me to understand him, to accept him. Too bad it was too late. My heart had already died the last lifetime when he himself shoved it into the flames. The night before he ran away, Ethan drank a lot. He held me, whispering in my ear over and over. Serena, don't leave me. I know I was wrong, I really do. Give me one more chance, please? His voice was full of pain and pleading. I kept my eyes closed and stayed still, letting him hold me. Mama, have you softened? My son asked cautiously. Have I softened? I asked myself. No. I was only thinking how, in my last life, if I could have heard him say that, how happy I would have been. Unfortunately, there's no if. It was 3 in the morning when the operation began. Mommy. Go. At my son's command, the entire alarm system at Yunding Manor instantly failed. The power grid collapsed too, plunging everything into darkness. Outside, the bodyguards' panicked shouts rang out. Taking advantage of the chaos, I slipped into the clothes I had prepared long ago and escaped through the secret passage my son had planned for me. Down the mountain, the getaway team's car was already waiting. I climbed in and left the city without looking back. The car sped along the highway. Watching the nightscape blur past the window, I finally let out a long breath. Freedom. My child and I were finally free. At that moment my phone rang. It was a video call request from Ethan. On impulse I tapped to accept. His face appeared on the screen. He stood before a sea of flames, the fire casting his features in a deathly pallor. Behind him was the main building of Cloudtop Manor, being devoured by the blaze. Serena. He smiled, a smile more hideous than tears. Weren't you trying to leave? See, I burned the cage that was keeping you. Now, can you come back? I stared at that mad face on the screen and felt a chill rise from my feet and sweep through every limb and bone. A lunatic. He was a complete, utter lunatic. Ethan, burn that place down all you want, it still won't keep me. I said coldly. Even if you burn the whole world, I will never turn back. Is that so? The smile on his face grew stranger. Then what if I trade Vivian's life for you? My pupils constricted. What do you mean? He didn't answer me, but switched the camera. In the video, Vivian was tied to a chair, her mouth sealed with tape, her face full of terror. She had someone tamper with the car in your past life, trying to make you and the baby die. Ethan's voice came softly. I only just discovered this. Serena, see, I've avenged you. Now, can you forgive me and come back to my side? I stared at it all in shock, unable to speak for a long time. Vivian was the mastermind behind my death in the previous life? And Ethan, he actually. Mama, don't believe him. He's acting. He's trying to force you back this way. That bomb was fake. I just scanned it. My son's voice made me instantly calm. Yes, how could I have almost been fooled by him again? This man was best at acting and manipulating people's hearts. Ethan. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to sound steady. Thank you for getting revenge for me. But I'm still not going back. The grudge between you and Vivian is yours to settle. I don't want to be involved in any of it anymore. After saying that, I ended the video call. Then I took out another phone and dialed the police. Hello, is this the police? I need to report something. Someone at Yunding Villa is using a fake bomb to kidnap people and setting fires. Having done all that, I removed the SIM cards from both phones, snapped them in half, and threw them out the window. From then on, Serena would vanish completely from this world. 1 year later. Provence, France. A sweet little boy chased butterflies through the lavender fields. "Liam, slow down," I called from the bench at the edge of the field. "Mummy. Look. I caught one." He ran toward me, waving the small net. I opened my arms and hugged him into my lap. "Well done." A warm male voice sounded behind me. "Serena, Liam, it's time to go home for dinner." I turned back and saw a handsome man in a white shirt carrying a sketchbook walking toward us. He was the neighbor I had met here, a gentle painter. He was also my son's godfather. "Uncle Gabriel." My son happily wriggled out of my arms and leapt into his. The man picked him up, then came to my side and took my hand. "How were the paintings today?" I asked. "I painted you and Liam." He lowered his head and pressed a kiss to my forehead. "You two are the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen." I leaned on his shoulder, watching the brilliant sunset in the distance, and smiled from the bottom of my heart. As for Ethan, he was sentenced to 10 years for kidnapping and arson. The Scum Corporation, hit hard by both Victor and the Yi family, never recovered and ultimately went bankrupt. None of that had anything to do with me anymore. I had my son, a new life, and people who loved me. In this life, I finally became the person I wanted to be. Always remember to love yourself first. This is Rebirth, its greatest meaning.